Hello again, and welcome to a new episode of A Viridescent Talk. I am Hassan Green, still quarantined, just like everyone else, really, for the most part. I hope that while you are staying inside as much as possible, you guys are all getting by. And in your free time, if you just so happen to have some, you're listening to this. First and foremost, I thank you for that. So yeah, here I am again with another episode with, I don't want to say much, but we'll see. But at least something to talk about. Again, I hope you guys are all getting by as best you can. From my last episode, the time in between my last episode and this one's roughly a week's time, and I know it's a saying, it's a figure of speech when people talk about how slow time has gone by, but I think we can all, or most of us can agree that because of what's currently going on in the world and in our neighborhoods, on our blocks, on our, right on our blocks, with us and our neighbors, this seems like the longest week I've ever lived through. Again, I think many of you can agree. I mean, I did much to pass the time. I worked out of my home. I listened to music, got some creative stuff done, and I've been recording, this content. But anyway, hope you guys have been doing all right, and welcome. We can move on to the first topic of discussion. Sit tight. All right. The first thing that I want to talk about, and it's been on my mind, I guess you could say much of the week. As everyone knows, generally speaking, everyone's been on somewhat of a quarantine. For some folks, it's been a self-quarantine or a mandatory one because they unfortunately might have tested positive for having the coronavirus. Others, I think most of us right now, and that's kind of weird, I say most of us are doing it just to be safe. And yeah, being safe is the utmost importance. We don't want to spread the virus. We don't want to risk getting sick ourselves, that sort of thing. I think that most of us, I mean, it might be biased or an unfounded or unfactual opinion based on, the facts or whatever. I think more people might have it, perhaps, and we just can't test positive. But anyway, most of us should be staying indoors as much as possible, or as much as required, really. And that's been going on for now about a week. However, some of us in the population have been away from what we're used to doing for longer than that. And when I say being away from what we're used to doing, I'm speaking about the children. All the children out there. I have one of my sons is in school, in public school, and he's been out, I believe, for 2 weeks now. maybe just over 2 weeks. Yeah, I think by the time this is released, it'll be just about 2 weeks or a little over 2 weeks. And if the kids are out of school, that means that the teachers aren't in school either. And that's what I want to talk about. The teachers. And in some cases, even caregivers. We're talking in some daycares and other such facilities or organizations or locations where these adults have at least somewhat of a consistent contact with the children in the area. I want to talk about these folks, the adults, the teachers, the caregivers, the people who just have that nurturing quality about them. I have a few friends personally, a few people I know personally who are teachers. And from what I've seen, I haven't been in constant contact with any of them, honestly, but in being friends with them and being connected with them, I've seen them just in passing, if you will. And in passing means I've seen them on social media. So I've seen maybe what they've posted or, statuses they've shared, that sort of thing. And I think generally speaking, most, if not all of them, have a sense of, I don't want to say despair, but I mean, basically, for one thing, they all miss their students in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I know teachers, some teachers out there might not like all their students, but they miss being at work. They miss having, it seems, they miss having that connection, that daily, consistent connection, if you will. They miss being able to interact with their students and teach them, inspire them, sometimes nurture or, cultivate them, cultivate their minds, their psyche, their, shaping or helping to shape and mold them. And these people that I know, it seems that, and I can't speak for all of them because I don't know all of them, but the ones that I do know seem to really be affected by this quarantine. Even if they have kids themselves, I mean, these folks, they miss their other kids. Again, the ones they see on a daily basis, and from what I can tell, and I'm not a mental health professional, but if they're not saying it just bluntly, directly, specifically, word for word, that they miss their kids, I can kind of get a general sense that they are. And I, for one, excuse me, I'm clearing my throat. That wasn't a cough. I'm not sick. Knocking on wood. But anyway, they miss them. And for some of them, it's really hitting them from within. And again, I'm not a mental health professional. I, for one, am usually on the receiving end of mental health services. Okay, I've had a counselor or two in my lifetime, and I'm usually the one getting the help or assistance or whatever. I've never really been one to give help, though I have over different times in my life been a source of advice. But anyway, I can't fully imagine how these nurturers, I'm going to call them nurturers, because there is that general sense of being able to nurture. I mean, they might not be, feeding these kids or bathing or clothing, not necessarily what parents directly do for their children. But these teachers, these educators, these caregivers, they still provide in one way, shape, or form for these kids, and their emotions are in it. Their time, their energy, their effort, their emotions, their desire to do something good for people, for these young people, is instilled in them. It's like second nature to them. So it just seems like it makes sense that they would feel this kind of a loss or an emptiness, wanting to be near their students, wanting to engage with their students, wanting to help, and want things back to normal as soon as possible, because they perhaps feel some kind of an emptiness, or temporary loss, because this is temporary, and I really hope that temporary is a short thing, not something that lasts for months and months. I feel so sorry. I feel a general sense of sorrow for them. I don't think I've ever personally wanted to be a teacher, but I get it. I get the reward in doing such a thing. It's a noble thing. I mean, some people have it in them to be these type of nurturers, these teachers, these educators, what have you, and other people don't. I mean, I'm a nurturer in a different form. I have 2 children of my own, and when I am dad, I am dad. I'm imperfect, but I'm still dad, and a damn good one at that, but I digress. Personally speaking, the closest contact that I have with children that aren't mine, that I'm not related to, is through my volunteering, the volunteering that I do through my employer. And I do that on my company's time. I take time out of my regular work schedule to go be a mentor to elementary age students in the area. And of course, when school is closed, normally speaking, when school is closed on a snow day or they're on break or whatever, then I don't take my time to go spend time with the student, or students, I guess, if you will, that I would mentor. So yeah, in this case, when all the schools, the school systems closed up, that obviously meant I couldn't go do my part. And when I did have free time, I caught myself thinking about the student that I mentor, the student that I usually see on a weekly basis for an hour, maybe hour and a half at the longest, who is living a decent life, or as best the life as he can, with his siblings and his parents nearby in the area. But I think about them. I think about my student and the rest of my student's family. I hope that they're safe, just like I hope everyone else is, and I hope no one is sick. But a small part of me, the, I guess, general nurturer in me, if you will, thought about my student, and I missed the time that I spent with him, making him laugh, telling him jokes, teaching him a couple of things that I remember, some of the things that I taught my eldest son that, I will eventually teach my younger son when he gets to be elementary school age. He's still a preschooler, if you will, but I miss the time that I spent with my student, shooting hoops with him in his gym or outside, weather permitting, teaching him about other sports, helping him perfect his reading ability, his writing ability, doing arts and crafts with him, listening to his stories, and him, I think, listening to my stories. It's not much, but I believe that I can at least relate a little bit to the real, nurturers. Again, those teachers, those educators out there. I get it. I can't totally relate, but I get it. And again, it was on my mind much of this week. I mean, in my neighborhood, I can hear the kids outside while I'm trying to do my work or whatever. The weather's been nice this week, and I can hear the kids in the neighborhood outside, and they're with their parents and everything. And I'm thinking about the teachers. I'm thinking about how are they doing? I mean, the teachers that I know personally, that are my friends, they're not all parents. I mean, I know a couple of them who don't have kids, but they really miss their quote unquote kids. And some of them are states away, actually. Some of them don't even teach here. You know, they might have, been born and raised here, but their kids are, elsewhere. And some of them, do live here, don't have kids of their own, but again, they have that connection, that connection in the classroom that, I mean, is sticking with them day in and day out while they're not in their classrooms as they normally are. I just hope that this emptiness, I mean, I hope it's not emptiness. I feel like that's one of the worst feelings on earth, is emptiness. But I hope what they're feeling, I hope and I trust that what you guys are feeling will mend with time. Hopefully not too much time, but I hope and trust that this will mend over time, and you're longing to be back with your quote unquote kids, to get back to the joys of educating or mentoring or volunteering. Whatever you do respectively is, again, strictly temporary. Oh man, I just hope you guys are doing okay. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like this is, so depressing. And for some folks it is. And speaking of which, I just want to say really quickly, if those of you out there are really, suffering from a great loss, because you feel detached from the outside world. I mean, literally speaking, most if not all of us really are. The outside world is on the other side of our windows, and we can't always touch that. But if you guys, really quickly, if you guys are, feeling really down about it, I would check out your local resources. There's probably phone numbers you can call, people to talk to over the phone. I want to say there's even some pages and resources and apps I've seen over Facebook and on Instagram, promoting free volunteer help. People who just want to be out there to lend ears, to listen. And you know what? I mean, I know I said I'm not a professional, but damn it, I got friends, and I want to be a friend to my friends, and I guess even the people that I'm not quite friends with. If you want to vent and somehow you end up contacting me, I'll do the best I can to listen. That's a damn promise. I mean, we all are doing this. We are all doing the best we can, and then sometimes some people have, some people are really having some bad days, being shut in. Heck, and even if they're a little sick, I mean, that could be a bad day. But I, like many other people out there, I'm here, and I'll listen. So that's what I wanted to say about that topic. And again, I hope you teachers, you educators, you caregivers out there, you mentors, you volunteers, I hope you guys are doing well, just the same as anyone else. I know you guys being away from the people you help, the people you teach, I can imagine that's taxing. I can imagine it might cause you a little pain, a little bit of sorrow, but it'll be all right. Everything is temporary. We're just doing what we can, all of us doing what we can to pass the time, and hopefully the time won't go by so slow. We'll all be back to normal. All right, I'm going to move on to another topic, so don't go anywhere. And now it's time for a dad joke. All right, I got one for you. So, guess who I bumped into on my way to get my glasses fixed? Everybody. You're welcome.
Do not tell Mom.
All right. With this next segment, I want to continue with the role of the caregiver. I want to talk about a different caregiver, if you will. Probably the more specific, more actual caregivers, that being those working in the medical profession. Doctors, nurses, heck, even, unit clerks in hospitals, those who have to work at, essential facilities and locations through this whole quarantine, through this whole virus crisis, if you want to call it that. In the previous segment, I talked about the mental toll, or I tried to talk about the mental toll that it takes on, the teachers, the educators, being away from their group of children that they care so deeply for. They care and assist in raising through life, shaping, molding, teaching through life, the toll that they endure. And I'm not trying to put one level of profession or calling or duty above another at all. There's a different kind of toll, let's put it that way. There's a different kind of stress, a kind of endurance that these caregivers in the medical health profession are going through. Many of us, if not all of us, are, I think, perhaps separated at least, or no more, separated no more than 2, maybe 3 degrees from someone who is a nurse or a doctor, who right now, if they're not sick themselves, are on the front lines, if you will, with this. I mean, I personally am directly connected to a few folks who still go to work every day, or they have gone to work every day, that they are expected to be at work through this whole thing. And they have been on my mind as much as my own children. And my children are just children. They're not doing anything. One's not in school and the other is not in daycare. But I think about these grown adults who I am the closest I can be related to. And truth be told, my mother is working in a hospital. My little sister is working in another hospital, and my older sister is working in another medical facility herself. I've got friends that work in hospitals or clinics or, what have you. And they're out there, being more exposed than any of us regular folk who aren't doing this stuff. I mean, the most exposure we common people, I guess, if you will, are getting is when we, go grocery shopping or are out for a walk or out to pick up takeout or to pick up, go get alcohol that we so desperately need during these trying times, or to run some other kind of errand, I suppose. But I think about the ones that I know personally, I'm very close to, and hoping that, it's one thing when we used to tell people, get home safe, be safe, but man, it means something a lot more now. And I hope that these three women that I hold so close, I hope they get home safe. I hope they are safe every single day. While it gives me worry, I can't imagine what they or anyone else on these front lines in their profession, I can't amount to the worry or concern they have for themselves while they're gloved up, hopefully masked up as best as they can, protected as well as they can to just do their job. Something that they would normally do without this whole virus scare. I hope that they are at some kind of peace in doing what they're doing. I know nobody wants to get sick, and nobody wants to get sick from this. And I know that, if you've been paying attention to the news or seeing on social media, the casualties from this virus that we have stateside, it's not just hitting old folks. It's hitting anyone, and it's taking anyone of any age, any background, any demographic. It's out there. I think that those of you out there who work in health and even work in safety, there's, cops out there, firefighters, and definitely, mental health professionals. But, I'll talk about the mental health aspect very shortly. But those who are really out there, who are exposed to folks doing their regular jobs, it's one thing to be brave to do what you do, whether you're a cop or you're a firefighter or even working in medicine. There are precautions you need to take every day on a daily basis, with or without a virus. And what is reality now really not just puts things into perspective, but really ups the ante, if you will, raises the stakes. So you guys, you men and women out there, I just hope that there is some kind of zone you're in, you can get into, or just some kind of mentality where you can, be as calm as possible, calm but diligent as possible in dealing with, I guess, the new precautions, the new and current danger that you face. The folks that I know who just work in medicine and health or whatever, they're not necessarily normally ones to have to deal, if they, their work doesn't require them to deal directly with someone who would in theory have the virus. Like, they work in different medical departments in which they wouldn't be directly dealing with someone. Like, they don't work in an ER, as far as I know, or an infectious disease, department or wing within their locations that they work. But, who's to say that a pregnant woman can't come in with the virus and maybe hasn't tested positive yet, or a woman going into labor has the father with her, they both come in, and the father perhaps might be a carrier of the virus. Who's to say that someone who's coming in for some kind of a procedure, whether it's elective or not, but coming in for a much needed procedure at a hospital, could be carrying the virus and just isn't deemed positive because they haven't been tested. That's an exposure that they're just going to get because this virus is everywhere. I mean, what if a cop, comes across a regular traffic stop, comes across somebody who might have the virus, and then the driver rolls the window down, has the license registration in their hand, and they cough or sneeze, and then everything is everything's over, everything's downhill at that point. That officer could be exposed, and then that officer can bring that home to his or her family. If not, the rest of his or her colleagues within their department when they go back, to the station, close it up for the day or night, and then go home. Same thing with firefighters, EMTs, etc. I just can't imagine the level, the mentality that those of you out there, in your respective positions, you caregivers and protectors, I can't imagine the mentality you guys have doing this on a daily basis. I mean, I don't know if you guys are in some kind of mode, once you walk into the building before you even punch in, or does it just automatically click when you punch in? You've got your scrubs on, or you got your uniform on, you're geared up, you're ready to go. I would say whatever it is, keep it going. If it's getting you through day to day or night to night, keep it going. From what I can see, you guys are doing as well as you can, and I hope you guys keep it up. And I hope that you guys continue to stay safe, be safe, take your precautions, do the right thing, protect yourself, protect others. And just like the rest of us, we'll get through it. I said I was going to talk about the mental health, aspect. Those who are providing mental health help. And I want to say, I haven't done too much research on this, but I want to say that if not every single practitioner or even volunteer who might have a background in doing this kind of assistance, if not every one of those folks are doing it remotely, I think perhaps maybe they should. In fact, I'd be kind of surprised if they're not, if some people still have offices open or their couches available to physically sit on. I hope everyone is either talking on the phone, texting, chatting, Skyping, FaceTime, all that stuff. But I mentioned them, those who are giving mental health help through this whole ordeal came to mind because I think there's even an even further different toll or sacrifice that those folks are making. Because even if they don't physically speak to these people who are seeking out help, or just, seeking out a shoulder to cry on, or an ear to talk into, or, a text to send to someone who listen, to be able to sit there and listen to people's real, genuine problems of anxiety, or being, or having, quote unquote cabin fever, or the depression and worries about folks, and as I mentioned, the students that they teach, or the patients that they might have had, or the spouse who's out there out on patrol, or the boyfriend or girlfriend who's out there fighting fires, or being an EMT, or heck, even the people we care about that are working in grocery stores, for example, or working at essential retail establishments. Excuse me. It's stress that these folks have if they're stuck inside, and they've got folks out there, even the folks that they care about, who still might be stuck inside themselves. I mean, everybody's thinking about everyone else. If they have everyone else, they're definitely thinking about everyone else. And that's stress right there. And these people need someone to talk to. And the people that they talk to, it is a true sacrifice for them to absorb, to take in other people's concerns, their worries, their issues. I commend them for being able to absorb all that, because then they have the knowledge of what other people are going through. They themselves could very well be going through the same thing, and I hope that they are talking to other people. I hope that there's this back and forth kind of thing going. Maybe even if it's a group effort, where perhaps there's a group chat or group text with 5 or 10 people, and even if they are all professionals themselves in the mental health field, they're talking amongst each other, bouncing off of one another, making sure one another is sustained, is held up by the other. I guess what I'm trying to say is, kudos to those who are listening to the people talking about what they're going through. And I hope that the ones who are listening are also getting a chance to talk themselves. Maybe I'm a little biased about it, because I've, for other reasons in my life before this whole thing came about to everyone, I had periods in my life where I talked to a therapist or a counselor, and they are, again, I might be biased, but I think that they are just as much, MVPs as those out there doing the essential things in medicine and health, or the people out there working in the grocery store still getting the exposure, the cops and firefighters and EMTs out there, the other people working in essential retail that still, or folks who are still considered essential retail out there. I think these mental health professionals, even if they don't get outside for 5 minutes a day, because they're listening to everyone's problems, everyone's issues, all day, every day, they deserve as much praise as those, I think, out there physically doing it too. Again, like I said at the very beginning of this segment, I don't think one person, I'm not trying to convey that one person in their field of work is more important than the other. I think everyone has been doing a damn good job contributing, sacrificing to this effort to help ensure that everyone is being safe and healthy as possible. I think everyone who is out there on the front lines, or doing what they can to help is helping in their own respective way. Plain and simple. So, that's all that comes to mind about those folks in this segment. So, I'll move on to something else. Sit tight. Don't go away. All right. Well, you listeners are once again in luck. This episode won't be as long as many of my other ones. But one last thing I wanted to talk about before cutting or signing off, whatever, is the extension of the, I guess you could say, federal suggestion of social distancing guidelines. So everything that we've been doing, at least from the federal standpoint, or advised to do for the past week or over last week, will be continued another 30 days, a month or so. I hope we'll be okay. I mean, most of us, we all got through what seemed like a tumultuous week. One of the longest weeks I think many of us have ever, I guess, literally sat through, apart from maybe going outside or trying to go do grocery shopping or whatever. It was the longest week that we sat, laid around, binge watched, video gamed, worked remotely through. And I'm really not trying to sound like I'm complaining. I mean, yeah, it's something to complain about because this isn't easy for anybody. I mean, even kids are sometimes not taking it well, or at least the kids I know of personally, closely, one of my own included. My little one doesn't quite know what it's like to go to school and then actually, truly, genuinely want to go back to school. That's my older one. His patience here and there sometimes is wearing thin, and he wants to get back to his friends. I mean, luckily for him, he's more connected than kids my generation were to hang out with their, quote-unquote, hang out with their friends or stay connected to their friends. I grew up where there was just a landline in the house, and maybe you had dial-up internet to chat, and maybe I had a parent that was considerate enough to let me use a computer to chat. But anyway, we're doing this for another month, at least it seems. Even though Trump or the White House is saying that, anybody with a decent amount of knowledge, self-knowledge, is likely taking whatever comes from Washington, D.C., that part of Washington, D.C., at least, with a grain of salt. I mean, I know I am. I'll admit that till the cows come home. I take whatever comes from the White House now definitely with a grain of salt by now. Quite frankly, I'll listen a little bit more to what the governor of my state says, because he's seems to be running things rather well, or as well as he can. I hope wherever you are in your states, things are going as well as they can be. So yeah, we're doing this even longer. I talked to a couple of family members and friends over the course of the week, and it seems at least they have some kind of plan of action or methodology as to what they're doing on a daily basis or to get through day to day throughout the course of a week. For example, they have their or what they think is a sort of a battle plan, if you will, of grocery shopping. They've switched around when they can do it or when they will try to do it at any point of the day. Like, for example, some folks are going to try to knock it out if they, have a considerable lunch break or break in the middle of the day, if you will, if they're working remotely, to just kind of go to the nearest grocery store, get what they can get. Hopefully it's not peak time. It's definitely not interfering with those early elderly shopper times to get what they need, whether it's from the local drugstore or the local grocery store. That's just an example. Folks are going out for their usual walks, especially if they have, dogs, going out for a walk, or just, by themselves, going out to get some fresh air. I've seen folks out, sunshine or cloudiness, a little bit of rain or shine, out there getting fresh air, getting the good kind of exposure, if you know what I mean. And they've been, getting by there. I would say, in addition to whatever you guys are doing to make it through the day, hour after hour, day after day, and now it looks like week by week or week after week, keep in contact with people. If you can, if you got people in your circle of friends or family, keep in contact, check in with everyone and see what's what. Talk them through whatever they're going through, or allow yourself to be talked through whatever's going through, especially if you can't somehow reach a mental health volunteer or professional. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. We've gotten through so much time up to this point, and we're all doing this together. We'll make it. Okay, so as I said, this episode is not going to be as long as most of them in my collection, I guess. But anyway, we're going to be at this for a while at least. If a month is a while to you, hopefully this month doesn't feel like 6 months or a year. But this is part of it. This is part of the process. So, like the Philadelphia 76ers coining the phrase, trust the process. So, this is what we're doing. Again, hats off, kudos, a salute to the teachers, the doctors and nurses, cops, firefighters, volunteers, anyone who's helping this process go as smooth as possible. Many thanks to you guys. And thank you for listening. My next episode, I'm going to, if I didn't say it before, I'm going to try to just focus on things and try to stay away from mentioning the virus. Or I guess the ramifications of the virus and the quarantine, all that stuff. Maybe try to have a happier or more funnier, or just a funnier episode, if I'm even funny. I guess the jury's still out on that one, and because of lockdowns and quarantines, the jury's going to stay out on that one. But we'll see. Again, thanks for listening. All of you, everyone. And before long, my next episode will be out. For all of you guys, take care, be safe, love one another, laugh as much as you can, and just remember, we're all getting through this. Thanks for listening. Special thanks to Iron Buffalo, coffee, gaming, and a little bit of comics. Look for him on Facebook and Instagram. Again, that's Iron Buffalo.